Exhale. Beautiful. One more time. Hands floating forward. Good. Pull back toward the body. Breathe in. Exhale. Beautiful. Now bringing the hands out to the sides. Breathe in. Come up. Fingertips meet fingertips over the head. And then exhale down the chakras. Close to the body. Healing energy to each chakra as we pass. Relaxing with intention as you come all the way down. Beautiful, you guys. Touching the legs, let's roll the shoulders. Beautiful. So letting go of the day's energy. Beautiful. Now moving the fingers again, coming forward. This time we're going to stretch the lungs. So when you get up as high as you can, breathe in. Exhale, release out. Beautiful. Crossing the hands at the bottom. Breathe in to come up. Exhale out. Good. One more time. Crossing the hands at the bottom. Breathe in. Beautiful. Let the hands stop at the bottom. Now I'm going to mirror image you guys, okay? So this is the right hand coming upward. The left hand comes underneath. Good. Now turn the right hand so the palms will be facing each other. Good. This is called our chi circuit. Okay? So now what we can do with our chi is we can go up and the bottom hand go down. This is called opening the gate. Pivot on the elbows. Keep going around until we juxtapose on the other side. Now the left hand is on top, the right hand is on the bottom. Good. Let's go back the other way. This is like a yin-yang exercise, if you will. So by joining the chi energy in yin and opening it, breathe in. Exhale. Breathe in. Exhale. Beautiful. Let two hands come out now. Breathe in. Let the hands come down, cross in the middle. Breathe in to come up. Beautiful. Touch the legs. Let's roll the shoulders again. Great stress reliever, okay? Bringing the thumbs to the temples, letting the rest of the fingers go over the eyebrows. Make contact, gentle circular motion. Stimulating the battery energy, negative and positive. Working your way down the sides of the face. Across the temples. Here, opening up all of those symmetrical sinus areas in the skull. Under the eyes, be gentle. Good. Now continuing, go around the earlobe and go behind the ear. Around the entire perimeter of the ear. Excellent. At the bottom of the earlobe, large sinus duct right here. Beautiful. And then finally, with the thumbs pushing up under the jaw, up against the two saliva glands, stimulating the flow of the lymphatic system, right? Beautifully, guys. Now moving the fingers. Let's let the head come down, let the chin touch the chest. Bring the trapezius muscles toward the top of the shoulders. And this is creating health, energy from the act of giving ourselves love. It happens to work every time because we're designed for it. Now as you let your head come upward, the tissue will soften. So let your head come up until you're looking upwards slightly. Nice, soft muscle tissue in the back of the neck. You guys breathe in, coming up, let the palms touch. Exhale, let the hands come down below the chin. Namaste. Beautiful, you guys. Now let's party.
I welcome you to our 7th anniversary event focused on our health, focused on the planet, focused on the animals. It's the us of all the people who are out there who don't know that they need and want to be part of this. It's the us woven into all that PPMNY has done for the past 7 years and all the people that we've not only touched, but that we continue to touch. Us is powerful. Actually, us is unstoppable. And really that's what I think about this organization. So what we want to do right now is thank some of the people who made this evening possible, because you can't do an event like this without an incredible group of individuals. So first of all, I'm not going to read the entire host committee list. It would take the rest of the evening. But can you please stand up if you're on the host committee? And we want to give you a round of applause. Please do take pictures of this at some point during the evening, because it is amazing work. Hannah Martinez, who is with us on the Plant Power community, does all this work, and she needs to be called out and thanked for her amazing design work. So Hannah, thank you. Dave, the musicians, the vendors, we can't make this happen without you being part of it, so thank you. And the volunteers who make this event a possibility. And oh yeah, please give them a hand. And we want to make sure that we include in there the entire team from Plant Power Metro New York, an amazing core group of people that I've had the honor of being able to work with for the past 6-7 years. So give everyone one huge thank you. We want to get to the event of the night, so what we're going to do right here is call up 2 people who then, if we can just in the back, just quiet down just a little bit so we can make sure that everyone is heard. I want to introduce our 2 folks who are doing the first introductions, Karen Hartglass and Victoria Moran. So, quick bio on both of them. A vegan activist since 1988, Karen holds degrees in chemical engineering from Bucknell University. She's worked in the semiconductor industry for 20 years, a classically trained singer, and she recently performed the lead role in an opera about Emma Goldman. She also served as an executive director of Earth Save International, founded by John Robbins, producing the annual Taste of Health event every year for Vegan Food Festival at Lincoln Center. And she co-founded the organization Responsible Eating and Living, and has hosted the podcast It's All About Food for over 15 years. And for over a decade, Karen has worked with John and Ocean Robbins on numerous food revolution projects, and she continues her collaboration with Ocean today. Victoria Moran is, I'll mention, part of the plant-based movement since the 70s. 14 books, author of 14 books, including Main Street Vegan and Age Like a Yogi. And relevant to this evening, had the great pleasure of connecting John Robbins with Patty Brightman, his first literary agent. Victoria, of course, has Main Street Vegan Academy, an amazing, amazing opportunity for people to learn how to lead in the space, and is the founder of and director of it, training these coaches since 2012, and among the disciples is our own Leanna Levine Reisman. So please, Karen, Victoria, come up here, the stage is yours.
It's a great honor and privilege for me to be here to introduce Ocean and also to sit next to this amazing, amazing superstar, Victoria. I bow.
Bow back.
So we all met at one of the board directors' homes in Los Angeles, and John joined us. Now, he wasn't involved with the organization directly anymore, but he came to share stories, and he told us about himself, and he told us about his spiritual guides who told him to write Diet for a New America and laid it out for him. And through my opportunities to break bread with John over the years, I would meet at his home with his wife Deo, and she'd make meals for me and my partner Gary. Good morning, Gary. There you are. And he'd share many stories, and sometimes he'd tell us about his conversations with his guides. And then in 2006, I was diagnosed with advanced ovarian cancer with a 10 to 20% survival rate. And John was always there for me, phone calls and giving me tips and just listening sometimes. And I had a bad second surgery, and so I was going into my third surgery, and John said, I will ask my guides to be with you. And the surgery was scheduled for noon, and it was late. And I was embarrassed that the surgery was late. These guides, whoever they were had to wait for me. And so I thought deeply, and I said, I'm sorry that we're keeping you, and it's late. And I heard back, there is no time. And that really resonated with me. It means a lot to me on so many levels, but I knew they were there. And I'm still here. So I'm very grateful to John and his guides. That's my story.
Wow, that's beautiful. And for all of you who have read Diet for New America, can you just see there's some kind of divine intervention in how that book is laid out? If you haven't read it, he first draws everybody in for the animals with stories and making people who never thought about animals think about them, love them. Then he brings out all of the science on plant-based nutrition and health, which in 1987, we didn't know much yet, so that was a stunner. And then he brings in the environment, which nobody had ever connected before to animal agriculture. So it was really a seminal work. And you know, from that book, and also his story, the hero story of having walked away from the Baskin-Robbins empire, made John our first celebrity. And I remember in 1988, we were both speaking at the same conference, and I was totally starstruck because he said he was going to come by and pick me up and we would walk to the venue together. But instead of showing up all ready and perfect, I had been trying to get my little girl, who was 5 at the time, to stop crying about having to wear shoes. So John comes in, gets down on the floor with her, eye level, and he listened. He listened to her. And it was like, if the audience has to wait, they'll be okay. There is somebody suffering right in front of us. And so to John, she came first.
I can see John doing that. I've seen him many times sitting on the floor, and we're all singing and gathering around. You mentioned John being a celebrity. When I didn't know him, when I first heard about him, I thought he was the Messiah for the vegan movement. And he was going to save us all. And then I got to know him and discovered he was just a very kind and loving, non-judgmental, compassionate human being filled with integrity. And he shared all of these great stories and information for us, and he really cared. And he had just so many great characteristics that, of course, he gave to his son, but they are not the same. And one thing that John didn't have, that Ocean has, is this great business sense. John had a legacy from all the books that he wrote, but he really wasn't able to capitalize on it like Ocean has done, creating the Food Revolution Network.
He had to walk away from business.
He did. He was not confrontational. Yeah. Anyway, so that's I think the most amazing thing that Ocean has added to that long list of wonderful things.
There's one other person who deserves a line here, and that is someone who touched John and Ocean and all of us who know her.
Right. So Ocean's mom, John's wife, Deo, who's also a great friend of mine, has been there the whole time, nourishing, literally and figuratively, and she's made many great meals for Gary and I when we would join John and Deo for dinner. Can I continue telling this story?
Yeah, tell us your story.
Okay, so we're sharing stories. You might remember this one. When your sons were a year old. Now, some of you may know Ocean's sons were born very premature, and they came up with this beautiful plan, Ocean and his wife, and Deo and John, to hold their sons skin to skin for 24 hours a day for an entire year. And it was remarkable, and you did it in order to enhance their development. And one of the things that they did was they sang all the time. And one time I was visiting, and John and Dale invited me down to your part of the home, and I wanted to hear all the songs. And so they sang all the songs with the two little boys there. And then they asked me to sing, because you may have heard I do sing a bit. And I was working on this aria from the Liebslachme, the bell song. It kind of goes, does that ring a bell, the bell song? Anyway, I finished. And you have to understand, these boys were later diagnosed on the autism spectrum, and that means that it's difficult for them to relate and socialize. I don't have a lot of experience with that. But after I finished singing, the older boy, Bodhi, he started to sing, right? He went, oh, oh, oh. It was such a profound moment to be able to relate. That's one of my favorite Robin stories. And I just want to add, that Ocean was just telling you today, his boys, who are amazing 25-year-old men, love music.
Wow, wow. It's so interesting, Karen. So John inspired you with his work, and then you reached Bodhi with your music, and all of this information and all of this love and all of this connection is getting this message out into the world where it so needs to be. It really is like we are woven together.
Oh yeah, I want to add something. So I ran EarthSave International and EarthSave New York, and I met many wonderful people through this organization that I never would have if John hadn't written his book and created this organization. And some of them are here. Betty Marco and Janet Kalish, one of my dearest friends, Robin Kern, and Linda Long, the author of Great Chefs Cook Vegan and Virgin Vegan. I met these people all through EarthSave events, and we're all woven together and here tonight. And I met you through EarthSave.
You did.
I just want to say I was having an EarthSave monthly dinner lecture, and my speaker had canceled. You don't know what that's like, do you, Ocean? We were just talking about that today. And somebody said, hey, you should call Victoria Moran. And there she was. She showed up and gave a beautiful presentation. And thank you.
And without further ado, the man of the hour, Ocean Robbins.
I had a dream a few months ago in which my dad visited me, and he said, I put on these clothes, this body, just so you'd recognize me, but just so you know, I don't have a body anymore. And then he said that he's been watching me, and he said, I'm told that I'm not allowed to interfere with things on Earth, like money or business or health or all the things that seem important there. He said, but when you turn towards me, I'm allowed to turn back and send love. And he said, and we had a lot of experiences in our family since his passing of birds flying by at profound moments, or butterflies, right as we're like in tears having a powerful moment. And he said, all of those have been real. And he said, because your heart extended, and through that bird, I was able to extend back. And so it strikes me that maybe we have a lot more angels than we realize. But if you've been touched by my dad's work, by his legacy, by his message, then I invite you to let him, if you wish, to be one of your angels as well. When I was a little baby, my parents used to massage me and sing to me every day for like a half hour a day. So I got really good at receiving attention. As many of you know, I was born in a one-room log cabin in the middle of the woods in British Columbia, Canada, to parents who were practicing yoga and meditation for several hours a day, growing most of their own food. They were true hippies. They named their kid Ocean. And they almost named me Kale, way before kale was cool. But we did eat a lot of kale and cabbage and carrots and other veggies from the garden. When I got a little older, we moved to California, and That's when my dad wrote Diet for a New America, which came out in 1987 and inspired a lot of people. In 2001, my wife and I had children, River and Bodhi. Thank you, Karen, for really being the first person to introduce them to good sounding music. We sang to them a lot. The quality I will not argue for, but the love was real. It was very real. I want to tell you a little story about River and Bodhi, and specifically River. The ocean refuses no river. So they're on the autism spectrum, and at the age of 10, River and I had never really gotten to make eye contact together. I felt like often I didn't even know if he really knew I was in the room with him. He was verbal, we had moments of connection, but really dropping in, not so much. And then one day, we were doing a new practice where we were joining them instead of trying to change them. And so River's sitting there chewing on her Barbie's foot, like super happy and not a care in the world. And I, instead of thinking, oh my God, this plastic's probably made in China, what toxins are leaching into his bloodstream, or how is my kid ever going to have a dating life if he chews on Barbie feet all day long and maybe yanking it out of his mouth and trying to again do something else, I decided to join him. So I sit across the room from him, I pick up a Barbie, and I start chewing on her foot. And I just decided, how much can I get into this? How much can I enjoy this? And I decided to just kind of mirror him and kind of do what he was doing. His foot's kind of tapping, so I'm tapping my foot. Suddenly he looks at me straight in the eyes. And I could almost hear him thinking, oh my God, there is intelligent life on this planet. And suddenly he's just beaming at me, and we're staring in each other's eyes, and I was so happy. You know, we're making contact for the first time like this in 10 years of his life. And then, after what felt like an eternity, he gestures like this. His Barbie has 2 feet. He's inviting me to come chew on the other foot of his Barbie. So now I come over, we're like 3 inches apart, we're beaming in each other's eyes, there's tears pouring down my cheeks, chewing on Barbie feet. And, you know, that moment was a moment of first real contact for me in a certain way. And I could say, oh, I'm such a great dad, I joined my son and I brought him out, but another way of looking at it is that I actually, maybe he was there for contact all the time, but I finally got over my story that something was wrong or broken with him and decided to join him where he was and love him as he was. Now, what does this have to do with an evening focused on plant-based eating? Well, quite a bit, actually. Martin Luther King said you have no moral authority with those who can feel your underlying contempt. When we judge people, when we pathologize people, when we otherize people, we lose moral standing in the relationship. And so often, people who are advocating for plant-based eating, you know, there's that saying, right? Like, how do you know if someone's vegan? Oh, they'll tell you. You know, so a lot of times, those of us who have had our eyes open to the power of food to change lives and to change the world want to tell everybody, right? How do we do so? How do we stand with deep moral conviction and purpose and clarity without losing moral standing in relationship to a world that often doesn't behave quite the way that we think it should? And in a world beset by so much pain and suffering and madness as we are facing today, so much preventable disease, so much preventable suffering, how do we keep our hearts open? How do we live with a moral clarity that includes the dignity and the sovereignty of all the people that we love, which hopefully is all the people? And so what River taught me that day was far more than just how to meet somebody in autism. It was how to be a human being who gets over my own story that I know better, how somebody should live, how they should act, how they should be, and is willing to see them with clear eyes and an open heart. Since that time, River and I have shared many times of eye contact, pretty much every day. He doesn't chew on Barbie feet anymore. But he'll often come to me and he's talking about something that I might judge as repetitive or not particularly interesting. And then I look and realize he's looking me right in the eyes. And when I look back, suddenly the conversation is not only with words, it's also with hearts and consciousness. and this profound, deep sense of love. And I would submit to you that many people are actually longing to be seen, longing to be met, longing to be loved. Most of us, deep down, want that more than just about anything in the world. And for those of us who have had our hearts opened to animals and to the caring and well-being of animals, or to humans, or to causes of justice and dignity and equity in the world, for those of us who want to be a contribution to make things better, we know the power of compassion, not only to help other people, but to help heal our own lives. My dad used to say, teaching a child not to step on a caterpillar is perhaps as important to the child as it is to the caterpillar. Because, the truth is that for each of us, I believe that it is critical to our sense of dignity, to our sense of well-being, that we know ourselves to be on the right side of history. And with our food choices, 3 times every day, we get to cast a vote of sorts, a vote for the health we want, and of course a vote for the world we want. And it has profound implications. Just to give you a couple of statistics on the global nature of our food choices. So here's number 1, okay? Of all the agricultural land on Earth, 83% is currently being used for animal agriculture to produce 18% of the world's calories. So if just theoretically the world went vegan tomorrow, not to say that that's going to happen, but just theoretically if it did, we'd instantly free up an area of land equivalent to all of the United States, the European Union, China, and Australia combined. That's how much land would be freed up, which could be rewilded, which could be reforested, which could go back to wilderness, which could be available for growing organic tomatoes, for all the amazing things that we could do with it that are not available when we're using it for livestock production. It takes about 14 pounds of grain or soy to produce a single pound of feedlot beef in the United States today. Whenever you move up the food chain, you get inefficiency. So animal agriculture is kind of a protein factory in reverse. And for those of us who want a world where everybody can have enough food, where there's enough resources for all of life, we realize what a waste this is, and this extraction is destroying our planet. Of the mammalian biomass on Earth, the collective body weight of all mammal bodies, we're at 34% humans, 62% livestock, 4% wild creatures. All of the caribou and elephants and giraffes and deer and all of the wild animals of the earth are 4% of the mammal body weight, while 62% is livestock, including pets. They're a small part of that, but 62%. And so part of my purpose in life, if you will, is to bring that 62% down so we can bring that 4% up. Because I want a world where we have abundant biodiversity, where the wild creatures can live on, where my kids, and hopefully their kids someday, can know true wilderness. And we help to restore that too when we eat lower on the food chain. And of course there's the health effects, and of course there's the social justice side, and of course there's caring for animals. There are so many reasons why we can send out ripples of positivity and love when we choose to make conscious food choices. And also, as we know, there's more to health than just what we eat. There's love and connection and relatedness and physical movement and sleep and all the forms of self-care that are critical. And so, Plant Powered Metro New York, I feel like imbued in this organization is this love of life, this vitality, food as a center point, and then from there we look at a whole person and we look at a whole community. And the work of this organization is so critically important. I founded Food Revolution Network, and we are reaching about 1 million people in our community right now. And I truly believe that what this organization is doing in this city is the most inspiring beacon of hope and transformation that I know of in a region in the world today. And of course it ripples out, and this organization is reaching people in many other communities, because when we do something real anywhere, it can send out ripples to everywhere. So I just want to thank you all for your support of this amazing work, with your time, with your dollars, with your energy, with your choices. We all get to be a part of something that matters. And I want to close my little time with you tonight by quoting George Bernard Shaw. who said this is the true joy in life, to be used for a purpose recognized by yourself as a mighty one, to be a force of nature instead of a feverish clot of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy. He said, I'm a member of the community, and as a member, it is my privilege to do for it whatever I can before I die. Life is no brief candle to me. It is more of a splendid torch, which I want to burn as brightly as possible before handing it on to future generations. So thank you all for burning your candle or your torch as brightly as you can, and for being a part of a movement to heal, to regenerate, and to love.
Our Community Champion Award goes to JASA, an extraordinary organization that has been serving older New Yorkers for over 50 years across every borough of the city. Tonight, here, JASA is presented by 3 remarkable women who have been our partners, our connectors, and our collaborators in the truest sense. It all started with Aisha Parlin, Senior Director of Older Adult Centers at JASA. In 2019, she attended one of our very first 21-day plant-powered jumpstarts. We ran into each other at a Plant Power Metro event shortly after, and we got to talking, and I learned that she worked at JASA. One conversation led to another. She arranged a meeting with JASA leadership, and soon we were planning a Food for Life nutrition and cooking program at one of their centers, in Co-op City, as I recall. Then, 4 sessions in, remember it was February 2020, so 4 sessions in, we had COVID, and the rest of the sessions were canceled. Later on, later in the spring, we pivoted to Zoom. And for the next couple of years, JASA hosted our programs online. When in-person events became possible again, Aisha brought us into JASA older adult centers around the city and into JASA staff training. Aisha, none of this would have happened if you hadn't walked through that door that first time, and if you hadn't seen the potential for our partnership. Along the way, we met Tanya Colazzo, Senior Director of Nutrition Services at JASA. Tanya oversees nutrition and meal programs throughout the JASA network. When New York City mandated a plant-based meal option at senior centers, Tanya was the one transforming menus and recipes citywide for the organization. We exchanged ideas and resources, and we learned as much from her as she may have learned from us. She was also instrumental in bringing us in to run ongoing education programs at 2 of JASA's pop-up locations, one of which is actually currently ongoing. Tanya is a powerhouse, enthusiastic, knowledgeable, and enormously impactful. And in a moment, she'll be introducing Sonia Edwards, one of our first JASA online participants, whose beautifully styled food photos after every class became legendary among our team. And then there's Ariel Bash, Chief Health Services and Business Development Officer at JASA. Plant Powered Metro couldn't ask for a better organizational partner. She's enthusiastic, forward-thinking, always ready to entertain the next idea, and always willing to connect with us with others across JASA, and stepping up as a true co-partner when cross-organizational opportunities arise. And I'll add, and this really is the highest compliment, Ariel responds. She is organized, she's clear and effective at making things happen. In the world of partnerships, that is rare and more valuable than you might think. Aisha, Tanya, and Ariel, and Sonia, I'd love to ask you to come come up. Anya, Aisha, Harriet, and Sonia.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. On behalf of JASA, I want to begin by saying thank you. Thank you to Planned Parenthood Metro New York for this extraordinary honor. Thank you for seeing the work of our organization, for believing in the power of partnership, and for recognizing that when we invest in older adults, we invest in the health, the wisdom, and the strength of our entire community. When I first heard tonight's theme, Woven Together, Community, Health, Connection, it deeply resonated with me because it captures something deeply human, that our lives are made stronger when we are in community. It speaks to the heart of PPMNY, and it speaks to the heart of JASA. At JASA, we serve older adults across New York City, many of whom are living with chronic conditions. They're isolated, they're food insecure, they have limited mobility and enormous barriers to care. But if there is one thing we know, it is lasting well-being is nurtured through connection. Dignity is not sustained in isolation. Hope is not restored in isolation. We are woven together. We are woven together through the meals we provide, through the education we share, through the partnerships we build, and through the choices we make. And through the belief that every person at every age deserves the opportunity not only to survive, but to live with dignity, independence, meaning, and joy. That is why this partnership with PPMNY has meant so much to us. When we first began working with Planned Parenthood Metro New York, through my colleagues, Aisha Paralon, there was curiosity, there was openness, there was a willingness to explore how plant-based nutrition could support the health of our staff, our directors, and ultimately the older adults we serve. And what began as education became something much deeper. It became momentum, it became transformation, it became community. What moved me most was that the impact did not end when the formal workshops ended. It continued. Our staff wanted to keep talking, they wanted to keep learning, they wanted to keep encouraging one another. So we created our internal group where we came together to discuss plant-based meals and recipes, challenges and successes, and the very real ways that food was challenging and changing how we felt. People talked about having more energy, more clarity, feeling lighter, feeling stronger, feeling more in control of their lives. And that matters, because when a person begins to understand that food is not just something that fills them, but something that can heal them, can strengthen them, that something really important and powerful happens there. Something shifts. Food becomes more than a meal. It becomes a tool, a key to the shackles. It becomes information. It becomes prevention. It becomes possibility. That is what PPMY gives people so meaningfully. Not shame, not pressure, not perfection, but education, science, compassion, and practical tools people can actually use in their lives, and that is powerful. And at JASA, that is what our work really is about, building connection. Building connection that helps people live greater lives filled with dignity and health and hope. Because when you are serving vulnerable older adults, so many of whom have spent years being told what they cannot do, what they cannot have, what they cannot change, it is a profound thing to give someone knowledge that returns agency to them. To show someone that they can walk into a grocery store with more confidence, that they can choose ingredients within their budget, that they can prepare meals that are nourishing and culturally meaningful and realistic. That can, really change a person's entire life. They can better manage diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, inflammation. That they may be able to reduce suffering and reduce risk, and in some cases reduce their dependence on medications or avoid unnecessarily hospital stays. That is not a small thing. That is life-changing, that is life-extending, and in many cases, that is life-saving. I have seen older adults light up when this connection clicks for them. I have seen members come in excited, carrying beer bags of quinoa, beans, grains, vegetables, and ingredients that they have never used before, eager to talk about new recipes that they tried or a new meal that they created. I have seen the pride in that moment, the confidence in that spark. And for older adults, especially those who are isolated, who are homebound, vulnerable or disconnected from consistent wellness education, that spark matters deeply, because this work is about so much more than food alone. It is about connection, it is about confidence, it is about reducing fear, it is about giving someone a path forward. For many of the older adults we serve, the challenges they face are layered. They may be managing multiple chronic conditions while also living on a limited income. They may be navigating grief and loneliness, mobility issues, or the exhaustion that comes from trying to care for themselves with too few resources. Many do not have easy access to produce. Many have never been invited into a conversation about nutrition in a way that feels respectful, practical, and hopeful. PPMNY has helped make that possible. You have helped us bring science-based, culturally rooted, community-centered education to people who might otherwise never had access to it. You have helped us make prevention tangible. You have helped us open doors that lead not only to better meals, but to better health outcomes and stronger sense of confidence and control. And that is why tonight matters, because tonight is not only a celebration of an organization, it is a celebration of what becomes possible when organizations work together with shared values, when mission meets mission, when education meets service, when compassion meets action, when community meets opportunity. This is when the ripple effect begins. A person learns something in a workshop. They take it home. They share it with a spouse, a child, a friend, a neighbor. They cook differently. They think differently. They feel differently. They begin to believe that their health is not entirely out of reach. And that ripple keeps moving. At JASA, connection is at the center of everything we do. Whether we are delivering meals, offering nutrition education, supporting older adult centers, or helping someone remain independent in their home. Our work is rooted in the simple but powerful belief that every human deserves to be seen, supported, and given the tools to live as fully as possible. And PPMNY shares that belief, and that is why this partnership has been so meaningful. It has helped us not only serve our members better, but more holistically, more compassionately, more preventatively, and more powerfully. So tonight, I accept this honor on behalf of JASA with deep gratitude, but also with humility, because this recognition belongs to many people. It belongs to the remarkable team at PPMNY, especially to Liana and Lynn, whose vision and dedication continue to move this work forward. Liana, thank you for having the heart to dream this forward, the care to bring that vision into the community, and the courage to carry it through with such conviction. Your leadership has helped, your leadership has helped turn a meaningful vision into something real, living, and impactful for the community. And Lynn, thank you for the tremendous energy, creativity, and care you have poured into helping us find a meaningful path to provide plant-based education to our members. You have so thoughtfully crafted these sessions, helping us bring together the right formula, the right voice, and the right spirit for the community we are honored to serve. It also belongs to my extraordinary colleagues whom I adore at JASA, including Ariel Baskin, our Chief Health Services and Business Development Officer, and Aisha Paralan, Senior Director of Older Adult Centers, whose leadership and partnership have been so instrumental. It belongs to the staff who keep showing up, who keep learning, who keep encouraging others, and most of all, it belongs to the older adults we serve, who continue to inspire us with their resilience, their openness, their courage, and willingness to embrace change in the pursuit of better health and better lives. Thank you for this honor. Thank you for this partnership. Thank you for helping us help our older adults live not only longer lives, but healthier, stronger, more connected, and more joyful lives. We are truly woven together, aren't we? We are truly woven together, and together we can build a healthier future for all. Thank you so much.
Good evening. While attending a chronic disease management class, introduced me to the plant-based lifestyle, which led to my taking the Food for Life classes in person and then subsequently on Zoom. During that time, I also had the pleasure of meeting Aisha Parwan, who pointed me in the direction of a cardiologist who strongly encourages patients to be plant-based, healthy eaters. I also met the amazing Chef Carol Levy, who taught me how to make all the great, healthier foods, date paste, mock tuna, black bean burgers, which by the way today someone actually called me about 1:30 and asked me for the recipe again. She also introduced me to sumac and za'atar and other spices to enhance the flavor of my foods. Prior to these classes, I had never even thought of being a vegetarian, a vegan, or plant-based. Never did I ever believe that I could go meatless on a daily basis. Shortly after easing my way into the lifestyle, I began to notice some really important things. Insomnia was no longer an issue. Asthma was no longer haunting me. Pounds were dropping off faster than ever before, and I've tried many a diet. I used to supervise my 99-year-old aunt's care. She had dementia. And I walked into her home one day. As I took off my coat, she looked at me and said, "Where's the rest of me?" Now, if she could notice that I was losing weight, even with the dementia, this was the right thing for me. Gastrointestinal problems like acid reflux that I had endured for more than 30 years was almost totally eliminated. The lifestyle became expensive though, but not for the reasons you think. I began getting phone calls to find out what I was cooking, which always ended with, I'd like to try that. Well, I found that instead of cooking for one, I was now cooking for many neighbors. They would stop by for a visit because they knew I would do my batch cooking on certain days. There went my meals for the rest of the week. I have one particular person, the person who called me earlier, who says she's my official taste tester. It's never a taste, it's the whole meal. Thanks to Ariel introducing me to this lifestyle, which came at a very crucial time in my life. I truly believe the knowledge I learned has added years to my life. You see, at 66, I had outlived my grandparents, my sister, my parents. I am, however, still a work in progress. My journey continues.
Ocean was one of the first people, he and his dad, their summit was one of the first stops I made along the way of my own learning when I first came into the field of plant-based nutrition. And the soothing sound of John and Ocean's summits, they were a huge piece of my initial learning. Raise your hand if that was true for you as well. So, here's what I want to say. As a young 20-something post-college, maybe it comes as no surprise to those of you who know me. I'm not 20-something anymore. I saw some big things around the world, about the world around me that I wanted to change. Fast forward, of course, here I am. Okay, for one, one of the things that I knew I wanted to change in my 20s, I thought that I was lacking some very practical education about how society works. Some combination of like civic education and just understanding what's hiding behind the scenes in communities. When communities work well, like when the trash gets collected, when people access the services they need, we don't really hear about it. But then we can easily take it for granted and we may not work so hard to further improve upon it. So my thinking was, why not make civic life more explicit in our schools so that we can be better stewards of our communities when we grow up? I also had a whole different proposal for how news should be reported. The most important thing, of course, was that there should be far more good news reported than bad, to make it easier to see what's good in the world so that we can learn from it and emulate it. So the theme of my indignance 20 years ago was and is that powerful, invisible things need to be infinitely more visible. Perhaps that's why I was so drawn to the mission of making plant-based nutrition more visible, accessible, and achievable to as diverse a population and to as many more people as possible. For those of you in this room who know and every day live with the power of plant-based nutrition, I know you're here because of how you feel. How satisfied you are by eating delicious plant foods, and perhaps from the energy this movement brings you as we work together to guide people of all backgrounds toward healing, and as we do to heal the earth. For those who are guests, friends, colleagues, newcomers, welcome. This may feel more distant to you, but we are so glad you're here. And I want to pause and just say, what did we actually do? Over the past 7 years, plant-powered Metro New York has reached tens of thousands of people, building new ways of educating and empowering individuals, families, workplaces, and communities to unleash thriving, healing, disease risk reduction, mental well-being, collaboration, and togetherness. Many people in this room help us to do this work. We have community educators and what you might call subject matter experts who range from up-and-coming med school students like Bryant Maythaler. Where are you, Bryant? Hello, Bryant. We have medical doctors like Jessica Krantz. We have dietitians like Marty Davey and Cindy. We have wonderful, knowledgeable people. We have chefs also who present cooking classes and demonstrations like Vanessa Sosa Sanchez and Rebecca Johnson. We have peer mentors who offer their lived experience, making change and feeling a resurgence of health, who offer a helping hand to someone else. Mentors, let's see you. I know there's a bunch of you here. Yes, all right. And beyond mentorship, we have scores of volunteers who do all sorts of things in the community, like tabling at health fairs, organizing events, assisting at food demos, sharing their stories to make the intangible more tangible, and so many other things. And we have partners in the community like JASA and in workplaces like Hearst, hi Renee, who see the opportunity and invite us to bring that spark of transformation into the lives of their constituents. So going back to the idea of good news, in today's world, I feel that it is absolutely my and our obligation to lift up the good, the great, and the amazing, and make it seen, because it truly exists and we deserve to be uplifted by it. In Plant-Powered Metro's 7-year existence, we have certainly had plenty of good news. And what's even more remarkable to pause and recognize is how good leads to more good. What I mean is that when we come with a message of hope, that eating plant foods can prevent health issues and that they can heal us when we're already sick, when we come with openness and empathy, knowing that food can be a complicated subject, when we come with both the hard science and the soft skills, and when we come with a spirit of community, people respond. They take on the mantle of change, and then they pass it on. Because we're not just out there teaching, we're building a movement. Page turn. This interweaving of people, organizations, generosity, ideas, and flavors is moving people to action. This is the tapestry. I'd like to illustrate the idea of the tapestry through a few stories, and if your feet are getting tired and you want to sit down and you're somebody who's sitting and you could stand up, let's offer that, because I want to honor the humanity that's in this room. Okay. So follow me as the threads emerge and wind around. In the early days of Plant-Powered Metro, before the pandemic, when everything we did was in person, we met a woman named Carol Levy, who you just mentioned, at our second ever Jumpstart program hosted at the JCC Manhattan Uptown. For those who don't know, our Jumpstarts guide people deeply in the transition to eating whole plant foods and lead to tremendous results. After Carol's health rebounded with plant-based nutrition, as many of you know, she went on to become one of our culinary educators who has taught monthly virtual cooking classes over the last 6 years, starting with the pandemic. But that's not all she did. Carol went to her hair salon and told her stylist, Nursey Sullivan, hi Nursey, about what was happening. Nursey had been dealing with polycystic kidney disease for many years and was curious to hear what she could learn about nutrition and her condition. Nursey was intrigued and she opened up her salon in Chelsea to present community events with us, featuring healthcare professionals, potlucks, cooking demos, and even a healthy cookie swap. One of those events was with Dr. Shivam Joshi, an up-and-coming nephrologist who we honored at our 5th anniversary as a member of the team that started the lifestyle medicine program at Bellevue Hospital. Dr. Joshi's specialty is nephrology. He's a kidney doctor. Nursey consulted with Dr. Joshi afterwards, and she participated in our plant-powered Jumpstart, which gave her the beginning of the nutritional tools to preserve her ailing kidneys. Nursey has seen it all. She is the 8th person in her Dominican family who needed a kidney transplant. Am I right, 8? And not just 1, but 2. She was determined to do anything she could to stay off dialysis. With her kidney filtration as low as 5%, she did it.
Wow.
She used plant-based nutrition and her amazing positive spirit and strength to keep herself steady while she waited for the transplant. And last summer, not only did Nursey receive 2 kidneys, but also a liver transplant at the same time. And look at her, she has slowly and determinedly built her body back up to health. She is a marvel. And not only that, she's now committed to helping people in the Latino community understand how to navigate kidney disease so that they don't make some of the same mistakes that she's seen among her family members. She now has her own nonprofit, and we're so happy to support her and to show up as a partner to her in nutrition so that we can all make the impact that we know is so needed in communities. Thank you, Nursey. And somehow kidneys are the organ of the year. I also want to introduce you to Aline Linden. Hi, Aline. She's a grade school teacher who I met when my kids were little, who chanced upon us at a fair, also at the JCC Uptown. Page turn, sorry. At a time when she wanted to take control of her health. Aline did our Jumpstart in the fall of 2024, and combined with exercise, Aline's diet has made a huge difference. As she became healthier, she was inspired by someone she knew to donate a kidney, which she did just a few months ago. And New York One recently highlighted the story of her recipient in their first meeting, which we're going to share with you after today. Aline, you are amazing. Thank you. Good leads to more good. When we get healthy, we pay it forward. As we say in a Plant-Powered Metro value statement, we believe that just one empowered person or group can have a positive impact on an entire community's health. So we strive to give people the tools to make a difference. The wider tapestry of this work has so many threads. For example, Dr. Meenal Shukla, where are you, Dr. Shukla? Here she is. A primary care doctor in Brooklyn, was looking for a nutrition partner for a year-long anti-obesity program that she received a prestigious grant to organize. Through the referral of one of our community members, we met with her last spring. We got hired, so to speak. We put together a team of educators and led classes every other week for the past year that will wrap up later this month. And it's so well received, and we're so grateful to be part of that project. And similarly, thanks to the relationships and the credibility we've built these 7 years, we've come to have partnerships with the National Kidney Foundation, with with the Livestrong Foundation, making educational content for them so that people around the country with really challenging health situations will get what they need and to come into it with a strong will to survive. So another example, when Emblem Health was looking for a nutrition partner to launch its diabetes initiative in the Bronx, JASA's Ariel Bash suggested us. Thank you, Ariel. Throughout 2025, thanks to this relationship, we presented multiple classes each month at an Emblem Health storefront on Fordham Road, where that med school hopeful Bryant, yes, and Chef Brandy Cochran built a veritable following of Bronx residents, and they are getting real results. Like Peter, who in 6 months lost 60 pounds and dropped his A1C 5 points, reversed stage 2 kidney disease, and we recently just heard that he got off of his medications entirely. So thank you, Ariel, for making that wonderful connection. And who knew? Let's just pause, right? When John wrote Diet for a New America, he was speaking to mainstream audiences all over the country, but who knew that we could really bring these into true mainstream spaces? We're here looking for partnerships in the health space, and it's happening. So Ocean, I don't know about you, but I sure hope that this is something like what you and your dad meant when you talked about a food revolution. Yeah. You and John are just such an inspiration to all of our co-founders as we started our journeys. And I think it's important to say that we are not at the crest of the wave, but we are rolling. Or perhaps I should say our loom is busy. But now what? The time is ticking. I need to get off the stage. Okay. I wish I could say that I'm satisfied with where we are. But to too many people, plant-based nutrition and the sheer joy and liberation of plant-based living are still invisible. People are electing to take risky medications without knowing that food is a high-impact first option. They're undergoing procedures that might be prevented. They're losing time at work, or they're feeling the financial burden of needing to save up their money for care in what should be our golden years. But we can change this. And we have to think bigger so we can act bigger. Our good must lead to infinitely more good. The 7-year itch might have meant something else, but I think it's a marker of restlessness, a strong intuition that there's more on the horizon. So tonight, I don't have any big pronouncements yet, but in the year ahead, there will be. As many of you know, we will be choosing and announcing a new name for the organization, one that befits our ambition, our impact, and our widened reach. And next month, we're going to announce the expansion of an exciting partnership that I'm not allowed to talk about yet. But I wish I could say more, but you'll hear the full story soon. In the meantime, our capable and loyal core team is doing the relentless work of building the systems, the educational core, the technology, and the relationships so that we can be ready to scale up when the time is right. To be frank, over the past 3 years, we have come to a place of what I might call steady lookout. We haven't grown in budget, and we're doing many of the same things that we've done before. So thankfully, it's a bit easier than the true startup years. But that means that we want to use these next 3 years, from year 7 to the eve of year 10, to rise into the maturity that we know we are capable of, to go from impacting thousands of people per year to tens of thousands, to keep bringing you good news like Nurse's and Aline's and Sonia's, because plant-based nutrition really works. So I hope you'll join us in making our future stronger, bolder, and even more connected, and in making our news the headlines that we all want to see. To be part of the food revolution, to make the aging experience more joyful, each of us must contribute our time, our treasure, and our talents to weave a strong and durable fabric.
Who feels like they're kind of where they belong? Or like you feel like you're kind of at home with this group, and that, yeah, a lot of us. I feel like that too. And, you know, I'm reminded that in some ways I'm not really supposed to be here today. I mean, I am supposed to be here right now. There's nowhere else I would rather be right now. But in 2005, I was denied a 20-year term life insurance policy. And that's where my story began. And that's where I learned about the power of whole food plant-based nutrition. I was scared into it. for myself. And I'm very grateful to say that I have outlived that insurance company's prediction, even though they took all of my health information and plugged it in. I keep them. And I was waiting until October of 2005 because I was really nervous because I didn't want them to be right, but I made it. But the truth is that there are many personal stories in this room tonight, and we've heard so many of them, and they impact all of us. And if you're like me, once we realize and we learn this and we experience some of the benefits of whole food plant-based nutrition ourselves, we want to help other people. And if you want to help other people to live healthier and happier lives, can I see a show of hands at that as well? I mean, no surprise. I think that's really why we're all here tonight. I know for sure that that's why Plant Power Metro New York exists. That's why I care so much about the work that's being done at Plant Power Metro New York. And that's why I personally, me and my family support this organization, and I want to thank and appreciate all of you for supporting this organization as well. The one thing I want to add is that if you see the table cards, they're all around everywhere, the little triangles, we all have an opportunity to do a little bit more. There are 2 QR codes on there. There's one where you can bid on some of the silent auction items, and there's another one where if you can just make an additional gift, anything that you can do. The way I look at my contributions to Plant Power Metro New York, it's like a magnifier, or it's like a megaphone. Like anything that I put into this organization, I feel like Liana and the team take it and multiply it, and it goes out into the world and does so much more than I could do myself. And if anything, any dollars that you're able to donate tonight, or at any point in the future, just know that this organization is taking that and it's multiplying it for you, and it's combining it with other money that comes from others who are donating, and it's doing so much good in the world. And I would love to see the galas grow and to have hundreds of more people in the room, but the only way we're going to do that is if we continue to reach community members and we continue to do this work and introduce more people to the power of whole food plant-based nutrition through the work that's being done at Plant Power Metro New York. So thank you, everyone. I certainly appreciate all of the support for the organization. I know Liana and team and the rest of the board and everyone does. So I just want to end by saying thank you for doing everything that you can to support this organization. Thanks.